Movie Holics!
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to The Niche. I am Jack Hudgens, and I know I got a haircut. I promise I'm not trying to copy Kyler, but it just worked out that way. By now, you've probably heard that a remake of King Kong vs. Godzilla is in the works. In the works meaning, it hasn't officially been greenlit, and no one's really announced it yet, but sure, yeah, in the works. We'll go with that. Backpedaling a little bit, Deadline actually broke the information of a possible King Kong vs. Godzilla remake in a September 10th exclusive. The article stated that Thomas Tull, CEO of Legendary Pictures, was moving his King Kong project Skull Island from Universal to Warner Brothers. To quote Deadline, "This is being done to unite the property with Legendary's other giant franchise, Godzilla. In what would be a pretty epic pairing, the Godzilla sequel that is in the works will be followed by a movie that pits the giant ape versus the giant fire-breathing reptile. I'm told this is happening very quickly, with moves going all the way to Japan, where Godzilla rights holder Toho is based. Some of the greatest and most false rumors have been started with the words, 'I've been told.'" You always wonder who tells these people things. Last month, Movie Pilot put out an article stating that director of Pacific Rim, Guillermo del Toro, said he would love to see a Jaeger and Godzilla duke it out. That would be too much for the human brain. He's right, it would be a whole lot of fun. After that, some fans started freaking out, screaming, "It's really happening! We're really going to get a Pacific Rim versus Godzilla!" Here's the catch though. Movie Pilot cherry-picked those quotes from an article over a year old. On September 18th, Del Toro said he was just speaking as a fan. It was all hypothetical. Here's what he had to say.
Somebody said, "Would you like that?" I said, "Yeah, it would be cool," but I was not really proposing something.
It's since been confirmed that Pacific Rim has been delayed, and that has to do a lot with the friction between Legendary and their new partner, Universal. This may be one reason why King Kong is being moved over to Warner Brothers. But it looks like there actually may be more to this whole King Kong vs. Godzilla stuff. On September 16th, The Hollywood Reporter was able to get multiple insider sources to shed some light on Legendary Pictures, Godzilla, and King Kong. According to these sources, Universal passed on Skull Island because they didn't like how Legendary Productions' Black Hat and Seventh Son bombed at the box office. They're also not real fond of the fact that Thomas Tull has been taking a lot of credit for Jurassic World's success. Legendary Pictures helped fund Jurassic World, but only after it was deep in pre-production. But apparently Legendary's relationship with Warner Brothers isn't that much better. Legendary Pictures was partnered with Warner Brothers before the move to Universal. They didn't leave on good terms. Apparently Thomas Tull likes to repeat history because he also took a lot of credit for The Dark Knight, which Warner Brothers didn't like. Legendary helped fund The Dark Knight, but it wasn't their production. Still, it seems that Warner Brothers is a lot more comfortable with Skull Island at their studio. See, the screenplay for Skull Island has references to Monarch, the organization from Godzilla. It was Warner Brothers that co-funded the 2014 Godzilla movie by Legendary, and they didn't like the idea of a Godzilla element in a Universal Studios-backed Kong movie. Now that both Kong and Godzilla are at the same camp, things are a little different. The rumor is that Warner Brothers and Legendary now have a 3-picture deal that expand their monster universe. The first picture will be Godzilla 2, which was already greenlit and will be directed by Gareth Edwards, Kong, Skull Island, which I just mentioned is moving from Universal to Warner Brothers, and the third picture will be King Kong versus Godzilla. So does this mean it's definitely happening? According to the sources, Thomas Tull has had this in the cards for a long time, but that's no guarantee. Quite frankly, Skull Island and Godzilla 2 need to be successes before we can get excited about King Kong vs. Godzilla. What if Skull Island and Godzilla 2 both bomb? Is it really worth doing King Kong vs. Godzilla after that? Now, I don't think Godzilla 2 or King Kong are going to bomb, but let's back up for a second. I mean, I get it. Cinematic universes are all the rage thanks to Marvel now. And Legendary wants a piece of that pie. Warner Brothers already has a piece of that pie with their DC Cinematic Universe, but now they're just being greedy. There is no doubt that a King Kong vs. Godzilla remake would make an enormous amount of money. I mean, a lot of money. I mean, just, raining money. Like Batman vs. Superman, King Kong vs. Godzilla would be all about the marquee value. People will pay money to watch these monsters duke it out. They don't care about how Godzilla might fry King Kong instantly. They don't care about the size changes. People would pay money for a movie titled King Kong vs. Godzilla. If Legendary and Warner Brothers get that far, the movie would be huge. Now, I know there's a lot of fans that are miffed about this because they don't think Kong and Godzilla is an interesting matchup. They think Godzilla would beat him in no time. They think Kong is too small and Godzilla is too big. They think there's more interesting monsters to pit against Godzilla. In some cases, they're right, but the thing is, the fans didn't make the 2014 Godzilla movie a success. The general audience made Godzilla 2014 a success. And sadly, the general audience is far more interested in seeing a popular name like King Kong go up against Godzilla than Destroya. I'm sorry, but not a lot of people know who or what Destroya is, or Gigan, or Biollante, or Orga, Megaguirus, Megalon, did I say Gigan? Batra. The general audience knows who Mothra is. Everyone knows what Mothra is. Even if they don't know the specifics, they know that Mothra is a big giant moth that fights Godzilla. And even if they don't know Rodan by name, they figured that Godzilla's fought a giant pterodactyl before. King Ghidorah is kind of a stretch, but it's kind of obvious Godzilla would fight a monster with multiple heads. And that's why Legendary grabbed Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah from Toho's Rogues Gallery. They know that those are the most popular monsters, and they know that's what's going to sell the most tickets. When Legendary's version of Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah hits Japan, it's going to make bank! With the exception of Mechagodzilla, those have always been the most popular monsters, and the Japanese audience will flock to them. Now let's look at the American audience. They don't really know Rodan and King Ghidorah quite as well, and they sure as hell don't know who Gigan and Destroya are. But they know who King Kong is, and a matchup between King Kong and Godzilla will put butts in seats. And then there's the typical fan complaints.
But the legendary Godzilla is 108 meters tall. King Kong's only like 25 meters tall.
Alright, here we go. King Kong has yo-yoed in size just about as often as Godzilla has. In 1933, he was 15 meters tall. In 1962, he jumped up to 45 meters in height just to fight Godzilla. In 1967's King Kong Escapes, he popped back down to 20 meters. In the 1970s remake and its sequel, he was 12 meters in height. And finally, Peter Jackson's 2005 remake, he was 8 meters tall. I mean, come on, he can be taller than 8 meters. The thing is, fans just can't seem to buy the idea of an 80 to 100 meter King Kong battling it out with Godzilla. The reason for this? It's just not realistic. If your issue with the Godzilla series is realism, you're probably not watching the right series. I think the funniest argument I've heard is that King Kong is supposedly supposed to fit in with the fossil record. Me personally, I have no problem with King Kong growing in size just to take on Godzilla. Godzilla's gone from 50 meters to 80 meters to 100 meters, back down to 55 meters, up to 60 meters, back down to 55 meters again, to 100 meters, and finally 108 meters. Just bump up Kong's height, it will work.
Well, it works for Godzilla because he's a mutated dinosaur of some sort.
Newsflash, but Godzilla was originally not a mutant. He was simply a creature woken by atomic testing. He was always 50 meters. The whole idea that Godzilla was mutated by atomic testing didn't come into play until 1991's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. That's a far cry from 1954. And he definitely wasn't mutated for a 2014 film either, so the whole argument doesn't work for the new King Kong vs. Godzilla. I'm confident something like an 80-meter King Kong would work against Godzilla. The Muto in the 2014 film weren't as tall as Godzilla, and they gave him a run for his money. Plus, consider the fact that Skull Island is supposed to take place in 1971. It's entirely possible that the King Kong that they meet in that movie is a much younger version, and they don't know how big it's going to get by the time 2018 rolls around. By the way, Godzilla 2, 2018. I think there's a lot of red tape and problems leading up to a King Kong vs. Godzilla movie, but the issue of height isn't one of them. I'm more concerned about how well Godzilla 2 is going to do, and how well Skull Island is going to do, and how well they can tie this all together. I'm especially worried about Max Borenstein, who's writing both Skull Island and Godzilla 2, and I wasn't very impressed with his script for Godzilla. Gareth Edwards saved Godzilla because he's a much better director than Borenstein as a writer. You can't just tie these monsters together. You also have to have compelling characters and story and reasons for it to mesh together. The reason the 1962 version worked so well was because it didn't take itself seriously. It was a comedy. Godzilla and King Kong were clowns, and the characters in the movie were satirical salarymen, and they dictated that Godzilla and Kong would fight each other because they made it happen. The whole background and premise behind it is utterly hilarious. But judging from the 2014 Godzilla movie, I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more serious this time around. This kind of setup in film needs to be done very delicately. I mean, yes, it needs to live up to its title, and we need to see Kong and Godzilla slugging the crap out of each other. But if we're going to stick with the mood that the 2014 Godzilla set up, then it needs to be done with some finesse. I'm not entirely sure how that would be done, but I'll admit I'm anxious to find out. Do I particularly want a King Kong vs. Godzilla? I'm not going to say no to it. Yeah, okay, fans want to see Gigan, and Biollante, and Destroya, but those same fans, including myself, are going to be the first in line for King Kong vs. Godzilla. And if it's as big of a hit as I think it would be, then we could potentially get Destroya and Biollante and Gigan in future Godzilla movies. But first, we need to worry about Godzilla 2 and Skull Island. As of right now, Skull Island is set for a 2017 release. Godzilla 2 is set for a 2018 release. So this King Kong vs. Godzilla remake isn't going to be happening anytime soon. Let's worry and look forward to what we know is coming. And in the meantime, pray that Pacific Rim 2 still happens.
Now we heard Pac Rim 2 is slightly delayed, maybe.
Yeah, it's delayed, it's not cancelled.
I hear you, Del Toro, I really do. But Hellboy 3 is still not a thing, and I'm worried Pacific Rim 2 isn't going to be either. So what do you guys think about all this news? Are you down for a King Kong vs. Godzilla? And if you are, how would you do it? Are you also excited about Godzilla 2 and Skull Island? And what do you think of Skull Island's move to Warner Brothers? And what about Pacific Rim 2? Think we'll ever see it? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you hit the subscribe button for Movie Holics. Don't forget to follow Movie Holics on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud, and check out the website, movieholics.net. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, G-Man on Sci-Fi. If you're interested in following more King Kong, Godzilla, and Pacific Rim related news, make sure you check out my website, Sci-Fi Tokusatsu, in the description below. Until next time, Movie Holics.